Hi! What's up, everybody? Today I'm super excited for this video. I've actually been trying to film this video for a while now, and I'm finally sitting down to do it. So, as you all may know, about, 4 years ago, I created a video about the pros and cons of being a manager at McDonald's. And as some of you may not know, I was employed at McDonald's for just about 10 years. I go into the details of that in those videos, so I will definitely link those below for you. But basically, I worked there since I was 15. I became a manager at 17. I worked there through high school and college. So this is where we're at. So I thought it would be fun to do my craziest customer stories that I can recall from those 10 years that I worked there. Of course, I have so many things. Some things I like had to ask friends about that I worked at McDonald's with because I couldn't remember like some details. But here we go. I'm gonna do my makeup during it. I'm gonna do a McDonald's inspired makeup look. So if you want to see that, keep on watching. I have to drink the seltzer during this because this could be triggering a little bit. But I quit McDonald's about 5 years ago now. So it did take me back into my deep thoughts because, geez, 5 years ago is actually a really long time ago when you think about it. So I'm gonna start off with this guy that we used to call Crazy Mac Sauce Guy. He actually worked for the Red Cross. He would come through with his Red Cross truck. So I have a lot of opinions on if you're going to start acting like a crazy person and you're representing a company. But this man would come through and like literally terrorize us all the time. And it was always over mac sauce. So back then, again, I haven't worked there for a while, so like things probably have changed, but my franchise in particular had started to charge people for extra mac sauce. I think it was like 25 cents. So this man would always come through and ask for extra mac sauce on his sandwiches. I guess he was ordering a Big Mac, I can't really remember. But every single time he asked for that, he would come to the first window and just start unleashing like demons to us because he was so upset about the charge, and it was all the time, and that wasn't anything new. Like, we had done that for a while at that point, so it was kind of like odd that somebody was actually that like upset about it. And we really wanted to ban this guy, but our supervisors were just not really like feeling it. But it happened so much. And one day I actually absolutely had it up to here. I'm like, I'm sick and tired. And of course I was a manager at this point, but I'm like sick and tired of this guy like screaming at my employees for something that is out of our control. We have to bring that up and we can't take off the charge. Like, there's only so much that people can do. And one day we had to pull this guy up for some reason, like we were waiting on something. And actually it was about, he wanted a refund for his extra charge of mac sauce. So we pulled him up. And I decided to go out there, and I was like, I had it up to here with this guy. And I basically, and he claims I was lecturing him, but I basically explained to him, I'm like, when we bring this stuff up, the register automatically charges you. So we have no way, I can't delete it, like we can't override stuff like that. Like, that is actually how much it costs. And we can't do anything about it. We've always done this. This is all I can do for you. That's it. Nothing more. Not really sure how my tone was with him exactly, but yeah, he called our supervisor after that, of course. Go figure. I mean, I kind of expected him to, but I told my manager, my general manager, like, this is what happened and this is how I reacted. And I thought I was professional about it, but I'm also, at the time, I always look really young to people. Thank you. But for some reason, when it comes to management, it doesn't really work that way for me. And so they think that I'm like a kid acting like a crazy person. But no, I'm just trying to explain to you, sir, why we charge you for mac sauce. And you also work for Red Cross, so don't, you want me to call your company and complain about you coming through and harassing us in drive-thru? Not really sure what happened after that though. McDonald's guy. Ooh, this was a good one. So this actually, I remembered when this happened. It was like right after I became a manager. So I was like 17 years old. And basically, to put it in the nicest way possible, this lady came through and we had given her nuggets. And she wanted fresh nuggets for some reason. Even though they were fresh, it was during dinner, so everything was pretty fresh. And she like, oh my god, she was the absolute whitest trash human being I probably encountered at no, actually, quite a few people at McDonald's, white trash. But anyway, she just, oh my gosh, after she complained about her nuggets not being fresh, and this was in the drive-thru, I pulled her up, and then I went back to the kitchen. I'm like, hey guys, like, this lady wants fresh nuggets. And they're like, it is fresh, what's wrong with them? And I'm just like, I don't know, this lady wants fresh nuggets for some reason. Can you just make it? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Just make her nuggets. Like, I'm snapping at this point because I was just so mad about it. And little did I know, her stupid ass came inside and heard me talking about her. I'm like, wasn't really talking bad about her. Like, I didn't call her white trash or anything crazy, of course. But she heard me talking about the situation, and I didn't realize she was at the counter. So she just started snapping on me, and she was like, you guys messed up my order and you're talking about it. I'm like, I'm telling my employees what happened so they understand why. So yeah, arguing with customers, whatever, that doesn't usually get you anywhere. And again, I was young, so didn't really know much better than that. But basically, I had to give her a refund, and I don't think she ended up getting the nuggets. I think she was mad. Not really sure if she called corporate on me at that time. I don't know. It was just like one of those situations where I was just like, okay, crazy. Like, you can go somewhere else if you're gonna be like that. So my next story, this guy wasn't even actually a customer. He just like came in really, really drunk one night. And this was actually probably one of the last things I remember when I was working there, because it was like right before I quit. It was like after dinner time, and this guy came in wasted. Like, there was a bar next door at the time, and I'm assuming that's where he came from. But yeah, he came in absolutely smacked out of his mind and was trying to get my number. It was something really weird. Like, I don't even remember exactly how the interaction had gone. But I just know he was smacked out of his mind. He was just trying to, you know, talk to some girls, whatever. But then as he's talking to me, I realize he has a lit cigarette in his hand in the inside of this McDonald's. And I'm just like, all right, sir, you gotta go. You gotta take this outside, and no, you cannot have my number. No, thank you. And he actually hung out at the McDonald's after that for, like, outside for a while. And finally, I hear a commotion, like, at the window, or I'm sorry, at the speaker. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on over here? And I could just hear screaming, and like, I hear, do it again, do it again. And these people at the speaker weren't even ordering at this point because they're screaming at somebody, which I didn't know. I'm like looking in the camera, and I'm like, oh my god, it's that guy. And he's trying to talk to these girls in this car. I just hear screaming, and like, they were not having it. They're like, no, this drunk guy needs to go somewhere. And they pull around, and I see them at the first window, and I'm looking out the window, and this girl gets out of the car and literally beat his ass at the first window. And me and my employers are just staring in shock, because like, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, do I stop this or do I just let it happen? Like, I don't really want anything to do with this. I'm like, let me just mind my business. And it just happened for so long that I was just like, all right guys, like, that's enough. Like, we have to actually take orders, and you're in the middle of my drive-thru. So I started screaming at them out the window, and I was just like, if you guys don't get out of here, I'm calling the cops. I'm like, I'm sorry, but this is enough. And I just remember the girl who beat the guy's ass turned around to me and was like, shut the fuck up. And I'm just like, okay. I slammed the window shut and I called the cops. I think it was that point when I started to notice, I'm like, all right, it's time for me to move on from this place. But people were like filming it on their phones, like world star moment. I was just like, what do I do? Do I let it happen, or do I get them out of here? Cut creases are hard. This is one of my first memories from McDonald's, actually. This is in no order, clearly. I just did them as I remembered. So when I first became a manager, they used to have me do closing shifts with another manager just to kind of train, and I think we were slow at that point, so they just wanted to give us both hours. So we were just kind of, you know, doing it together. She was notorious for having really bad closes and being there really late and just not being a good manager overall. So, you know, we're closing like normal, you know, nothing out of the ordinary, right? Well, of course, like we end up having an awful close, like, you know, nothing was done, everything was behind, because again, she was known for having really, really bad closes because she would do everything at close instead of breaking down things early, which some people look down upon. I was one of those people who did it early. Sorry, we want to get out of here. Long story short, we were having an awful close and I was counting the drawers and she was just cleaning. So all of a sudden I hear this huge crash and I'm like, it sounds like somebody's on a roof. And I told her, and she like, what? She brushed it off, of course, because you know, she didn't really, I don't think she cared that much. And little did we know, there were two teenagers drunk on our roof. And at this point, I'm looking at the camera for outside, and I saw legs like walk across, and this camera was on the roof, looking at the drive-thru. So I'm just like, there is somebody on our roof, look at the camera right now, and everyone just starts freaking out. And the crash ended up being the McDonald's side. So they were trying to steal the McDonald's side on the roof, like on the front. Not really sure why they wanted to try that, because that thing is huge. It looks way bigger than it really does. Like it's big. And they had knocked the whole thing over, and it just shattered into the playland in a million pieces, and they ran after that. Now, fortunately, one of the guys closing with us, his dad was actually picking him up. And he actually saw, and he knew what was going on because his son had called him to let him know. And he saw the truck that they got in and took a picture of the license plate. So these kids got caught and they got charged. But we were there till like 2 a.m. dealing with this. Like the cops had to come, and it was just literally probably one of the craziest memories that I have at McDonald's. Okay, I just did my liner and my lashes because I knew I wouldn't be able to do that on camera while talking about McDonald's things. So let's continue. So we had this customer, we called her Saucy. She was a regular, she would come in all the time. And the reason why we called her Saucy was because she always asked for extra sauces. And at this point was when McDonald's started charging for extra sauces. So she would come in and ask for so many sauces. Like for a 10-piece nugget, they would give 2 sauces. And this lady would basically ask for a sauce for each nugget. But she would be just so rude about it, like all the time. Like it just was never, you know, nice way of asking. And one of our employees at the time pretty much was just over it at that point. Like, you know, lady, you come in all the time, you always complain and freak out about your sauces, and you know, she pretty much just had it up to there with that lady. So she finally just snapped, and she grabs the sauce container with all the sauces and was like, here lady, like just take them all. And of course Saucy would be like, let me speak to your manager. And so of course it was me. So I went over to try to, you know, diffuse the situation here. And basically Karen wanted 1 sauce per nugget for her 10-piece, and which is absolutely ridiculous. And you know, we had to charge her for it, but she didn't want to pay for it, from what I remember at least. And I'm trying to like talk to this lady and talk her down just to calm her down, but my employee was just like at that point up to here with her. And I'm pretty sure she told her to shut the F up at some point, from what I remember. I can't remember exactly what happened, But she basically just told this lady off, like, you know, look lady, we always give you your extra sauces and you make a big deal if you don't get enough and you only have a 10-piece and blah blah blah. And she's looking at me, the customer, and like, control your employee. And I'm just like I wasn't expecting my employee to like go off on her, which she deserved for sure, but I just didn't even know what to say. I was kind of like just dumbfounded at that point. And I don't even remember what happened after that, to be honest. I just kind of, I think I got the situation under control, but I'm pretty sure the lady probably called corporate. I don't remember. Like, it's just such a blur now, and I'm just like, I just remember we would just talk about it all the time and talk about Saucy, and she would come in, and I think she started sending her kids in, and then she would complain about like her food, but have the kids come in instead and complain about the food, and it was just a real mess. And I don't think anything really happened after that from what I remember, but I think she stopped coming in eventually. Okay, so this story I'm never gonna forget. I think this was probably the most traumatizing experience I had at McDonald's. From what I remember, we were extremely short-staffed one night, and that actually happened a lot when I worked there, and I think that was a big reason why I wanted to leave, because it's just like people would call out, they would try to schedule like nobody to save hours and stuff. So there was one night where we had call outs, and I really think there was only 4 total people working during dinner. And that's just like not nearly enough manpower right there. Like, it just, there's gotta be somebody taking orders in drive-thru and taking money. There's gotta be at least 3 people in the kitchen area. 1 person on the register, 1 person at the window, 1 person running for drive-thru. And we only had a total of 4. So there was really just 1 person in the kitchen, maybe 2. 1 person at the window. Actually, no, I closed the front window and we had it at the second window at that point because there was nothing else we could do at that point. And it was just me and this other girl up front doing drive-thru and the registers at the same time during dinner because my life sucks. Like, I don't know what else to say. So safe to say I was in a little bit of a mood at that point. Like, I was just over it. So basically there was a couple customers that we had to pull up for. And I think at this point we started selling McBites or something. I forget. It was a chicken product that was really popular at the time. And people were ordering it like crazy, and we didn't have enough to, you know, sell to people basically. So we had to pull people up. And so I had this guy pulled up in drive-thru, and then this other lady had called earlier, like maybe an hour before this, and I actually had one of my employees answer at the time, who was actually also my friend. And we normally only the managers would answer the phone, but at this point I needed help. Like, from what I remember, this lady was complaining about her Rolo McFlurry. And I don't know if you guys even remember when they had the Rolo McFlurry, but from what I remember, it was very simple. It was just ice cream, and we would put our caramel sauce in it, and it would come with chocolate chunks made from Rolo. So it wasn't actually Rolo pieces in there crushed up. It was literally just like everything just separately, which makes sense because it's in an ice cream. It's a lot better that way. And so this lady complained about her Rolo McFlurry, and I'm like, whatever, come back and get you a new one. I'll make it for you for free. And of course it's during that night when it's like insane. I had people pulled up in drive-thru. And this lady finally comes in, and, you know, at this point I'm calm, cool, and collective. I'm just like, you know, let's make this lady her McFlurry, get her out of here. She was just like talking to me, and I'm like apologizing, and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, it just looked like they just like threw caramel and chocolate pieces in there, and that's not a Rolo McFlurry. And I'm just like, yeah, it is. That's literally that's how we make it. And I'm like, that's how I'm making it right now. And I'm like, I think I actually used the machine to stir it, because that's something they never do, and that's nothing. We barely used that, but because this lady was mad, I think I actually used the machine for her. This lady didn't like my attitude, and I'm like, I responded like a normal human being. Like, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Like, that's how we make this ice cream for you. And she just starts, the lid just flew off of her, and she just starts snapping on me and freaking out. And again, I'm young, like, and I'm just sitting there, like, just taking it, and I'm just, like, ready to cry, to be honest, because I was just over that day as it was. And meanwhile, while she's going off on me, the guy that was pulled up in drive-thru waiting for his McBites is just watching this in front of his eyes. And, you know, I don't really care. I'm just like, all right, lady, like, whatever. And then she wanted my supervisor's number, of course. That was just like a routine there. So, you know, of course, I go and get it for her, and I'm just like, get out of here. Like, I don't even want to deal with this. And the guy was like, can I see that? And like literally took a picture of the information I had given this lady. And I'm just like, are you guys serious? I literally said, are you guys serious? I'm like, I'm trying my best here, and there's literally 2 people up here working. And I'm just like, wow, I'm just watching these 2 customers gang up on me, basically. And I just will never forget the last thing that guy had said to me was, he looked me dead in the eye and was like, you need help. Now, of course, I knew what he meant. He meant I needed to go to therapy or something. Like, I wasn't even that crazy. That's the funny part, was I was just defending the situation. I'm sorry, but if you see, like, I'm trying my best here and there's literally like no people here, like, of course I'm gonna defend myself. You wanna know what I said back? I literally was like, yeah, you're right, we do need help here. Look how short-handed we are. Have a nice night. And of course, like, I remember, like, we were talking about it, and you're like, Lauren, I don't think that's what he meant. And I'm like, I know what he meant, but I don't care. Like, and that lady pissed me off too. Like, that was all her fault. Like, if she wasn't going off, I don't think he would have complained, but he ordered so many McBites that we just didn't have enough to make him, and he was just pulled up for a while. So, I don't know. You know what? And after that point, I was just like, I remember telling everybody about it after, like, my family, and they were just like, it's time. Like, it's time for you to go. You need to get, you can do better than this, which I know I could have, but I was in college at the time. So, like, you know, I didn't really know exactly what I needed to be doing, you know? What? Well, yeah, busy. This one was like an iconic character that used to come in all the time, and whenever there was actually 2 of them that used to come in. We called them the crazy ladies because we're crazy ourselves. But basically, we had, I'll explain them individually, but, you know, we were pretty close, maybe not even 10 minutes away from Philly. So, like, you know, we had some homeless people coming in occasionally. And again, I'm not really sure exactly their situation, of course, but there were some people that just would come in and they weren't all there. So we used to have this one lady we would call Salad Lady. And she would come in, and whenever we saw her, we knew immediately what she wanted. She wanted to actually physically see the salads that we made that day. And she would make us bring all of them up, and she would just inspect one by one just to see which one that she actually wanted to buy. Which is so annoying, but like, she would come at like not busy times, and we knew she was like, not all there. So we were like, you know, whatever, like, we'll do what she asks. Same with the parfaits. She would like stare at them and decide which one she wanted to actually like buy. And I really don't think there's really much to the story, but she would be such a smart ass at times. And, you know, one night she came in, there was no salads made, and she was just like not having it. But that was just like a reoccurring thing that would happen like maybe a couple times a month. And I think at some point I stopped seeing her come in. So not really sure what happened to her after that, but we called her the Salad Lady. I'm sure there's more to the story. I'm not recalling it at the moment, but there was another lady that would also come in around that same time. This lady had to have schizophrenia. Nothing wrong with having schizophrenia, but we knew for a fact she did, because this lady would just go bonkers in the lobby area. And what I really mean is she would order her food, no big deal. She wasn't really like, at times she would just snap about things. I can't really remember. It was so long ago. Oh my God, I don't even know if I was a manager at this point. But she was the talk of the town. And by the town, I mean my McDonald's. And she would just always come in and order her food, sit down in the lobby, and then literally be having a conversation with somebody in the lobby. And there was actually nobody there, by the way. It was just her talking to her friends. But literally nobody was there. So that's kind of how we gathered that she was definitely maybe schizophrenic, or I don't know. What else would you be if you're talking to nobody in the lobby? You know what I mean? But I just remember she would just come in and just get so mad about things, and there was times she would scream at our employees about things, and I think there was like times where she would scream at like newer employees for no reason, and it was like she knew you but she didn't, like she thought you were somewhere else, but it's because she wasn't all there. But she would literally scream at you about things that you had no idea what she was talking about. Like, that's all I remember because I was so young. I think I was 16, so it had to be before I was a manager. But whew. What's next? I'm like rereading these. I read them earlier and I don't think I actually paid much attention to what I was actually reading, because these are funny. This was another one when I was a little bit younger. If you didn't know this already, how McDonald's works. We had a speaker in the back. You could hear the orders being told through the drive-thru. The reason why I was there was so the kitchen people would be a little bit more prepared when making food. Now, if somebody came in and ordered something, either a large meal, like, and by large meal I mean like multiple items, and the order was like a lot of money, $24, $25, whatever it could be, everybody in the store would be very aware of that, including the kitchen people and the people working the drive-thru. Like, that's not something that would get missed. So one day this guy came through and just started freaking out the first window about missing his cheeseburgers, and I'm just like, what? And I go over and I'm trying to obviously fix the situation here, because, you know, what did we miss? He said he had ordered 10 cheeseburgers and we didn't give it to them, right? How would we miss something so large? Like, that's a big amount of cheeseburgers. We all would have known about it and been like talking about it probably the entire time that they were in the drive-thru anyway. So the fact that this guy really thought that we missed 10 cheeseburgers, he was obviously scamming us, like, duh. And of course, you know, what I did was ask him, do you have a receipt? Of course not. You didn't give it to me. Okay, well, I'm gonna go through every single order on every single register, because you could do that. You could look back for the entire day, and I'm gonna try to find a receipt for you, sir. And I did that. I went to the drive-thru one. I even checked the registers one just in case, but like, I knew we could not have missed something so large. Like, there is no way. Like, how dumb do you think we are? So I basically was like, sir, there's no order for 10 cheeseburgers. I'm like, if you don't have a receipt, you have no proof of purchase, I cannot just hand you 10 cheeseburgers. And I even said that to him, like, that's not something we would have missed. He got mad and drove off, of course, because he realized we weren't really that dumb as people would perceive us. And there was actually another one where a guy went off on me. This guy had ordered a black and white milkshake. Now, I don't know about other places that make milkshakes, but for McDonald's, there's a separate nozzle for chocolate and a separate one for vanilla. Black and white is just half vanilla, half chocolate, whichever order. It doesn't matter. We don't mix it. And this guy started freaking out on me because we didn't mix his chocolate black and white milkshake. And I'm just like, I explained to him, I'm like, sir, we don't mix the milkshakes. They come out of the machine, and, you know, obviously if you mix it, it's gonna start to liquefy a little bit more, so it's not gonna be as thick. So that's not something we did. We would just literally half chocolate, half vanilla, which I really feel like that's normal, but I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know about restaurants or any places that serve milkshakes, but that's just kind of how McDonald's did it. I don't know. And of course, I explained to this guy, like, sir, that's how we make them. And he literally didn't believe me. Like, he thought I was lying. And I'm just like, I'm not. Why would I lie about that, first of all? Like, you think I'm really that lazy where I don't want to, you know, mix your milkshake? Like, we don't do that. Like, we never done that. Finally, he calmed down. And I think he realized I was getting, like, a little upset. Because I was also young. So I'm just like, I don't know what else to say to you. I'm like, I can give you your money back, whatever, but I don't have anything else to say to you. And finally he realized he was being a jerk, because I wasn't doing anything wrong. And he actually apologized. So that was actually one of the incidents that I remember where somebody actually apologized. Like, that was extremely rare. Extremely rare. Like, that just never happened. Nobody ever apologizes for being rude to an employee, ever. I'm gonna make a customer service video one of these days, guys, so I wanted to talk about that at some point. But so this next story was actually my friend that works at McDonald's still reminded me of the story. I actually completely forgot about it. So basically, another ice cream story. It's always the stupid ice cream machine, I swear. But McDonald's at the time, I don't know if they still do, but they sold $1 ice cream cones, okay? Obviously for $1, you're not going to be getting much. Like, it's literally 3 swirls. And this guy just started freaking out in the drive-thru one day about it. Basically, again, it was another one of those instances where they claimed the ice cream should have been way bigger. And again, you're paying $1 for this, so of course it's not going to be like that big. But this guy insisted, and at the time my friend just became a manager, so he's trying to handle this guy in the front window, and this guy will not leave until he got a bigger ice cream cone. We even tried to give him a refund, $1, and he still wouldn't leave. He refused until we gave him the ice cream he wanted, and he was just being a big man baby. My friend came up to me and was like, hey, Lauren, help. How do I get this guy out of drive-thru? And I'm like, I'm very defensive when it comes to people who are being completely wrong. Like, you take it out on my employees. I've always been, and I'm not a manager now, but at my previous jobs where I've been a manager, if there's a point where you're just acting like an idiot, of course I'm going to defend us, as you know from my other stories. And again, I went up to this window, opened the door, and said, listen, sir, our ice cream has to be this amount of ounces. At the time I knew, and I'm like, that is equal to 3 swirls, which is the amount that you're paying for, is 3 swirls. Now, mind you, I know for a fact that people would never, it was never consistent. So, and that might have been why that he thought he was going to be getting something a lot bigger. But, you know, this guy, again, refused to leave. We would threaten to call the cops. He said, fine, call the cops. I don't care. And, well, again, I forgot about the story completely, and I barely remember it now, but my friend said that I literally said, okay, bye, and I slammed the window shut, which I probably did do that at the time, because I was just over it, and I was like, call the cops. I don't really remember what happened after that. I think he got scared when we called the cops or something. I don't really exactly remember, but yeah. Ice cream cones. So this guy, there was actually quite a few times this guy would come in and harass us. I'm pretty sure my other friends that worked at McDonald's with me remember this a lot more because I didn't really interact with him too much. But he would complain. He would just be one of those people that would just come in to complain about anything and everything. Like, literally anything could go wrong when that guy came through drive-thru. And his biggest thing was that his parents owned a franchise, a McDonald's franchise, in Wisconsin. Like, nowhere near, I'm in Pennsylvania, nowhere near. The complete opposite side of the United States. And that was his thing. And I hate when people say that, like, oh, my parents own like, who says that? Like, get out of here. If you're gonna be harassing us, then give me your parents' name. I will gladly call them. I'm pretty sure the guy was lying too about that anyway. But I just remember, like, he would just come in through the drive-thru and say, this is not the standard. And, like, he thought he was Mr. McDonald's or whatever. So there was one night where he decided to do this. And I actually wasn't here for this. Actually, I saw the footage of it after because it was on camera. But basically, this guy was harassing the employees in the drive-thru. And my friend another friend who was a manager at the time was working, and at that moment, this guy is going off on them in the drive-thru. Another employee was in the lobby and was not working at the time. He was off, but he was in there drunk. There's always somebody drunk in the story. But basically, he was in there drunk, and he heard the dude going off, and again, we all knew who he was, and he did not hold back. And again, he was not in uniform, so, like, this guy probably had no idea that this guy even worked for McDonald's, and as far as anybody cares, he didn't. But I mean, he actually did, but we pulled it off as he didn't work for McDonald's. But basically, he started screaming at him at the counter to the drive-thru window and like just started calling like all these names because he was drunk, whatever. He was calling him names and was like, come fight me, dude, come fight me. Like, it just got really weird. And so the guy comes inside, and this guy was like a big dude. And the employee that was off was like a really skinny little guy. And they were getting in each other's face, and they just started going off on each other. And the manager in charge at the time, my friend, went out there and tried to literally separate these two, like, we're not doing this today. And he wasn't even saying anything, he wasn't even apologizing, of course, but they were really about to go at it. And you know, the guy that was drunk was obviously just standing up for us, but it was just so funny watching this on camera afterward. And our GM at the time was like, he doesn't need to know that that guy was an employee, he just was a random customer that was in the, you know, in the lobby at the time. Yeah, I don't think anything really happened of it. And I think it got to the point where they were trying to get this guy banned because it was just harassment at this point. And I think that's how they found out the guy was lying about his parents owning another McDonald's or whatever. So yeah, I don't think I ever saw that guy after that. And I didn't witness this either. I just had to add that story in there because it was just iconic. Like, this dude was well known for years at our McDonald's because he would come through all the time and just harass everybody. There was another random time, and again, for some reason, people just didn't, I don't know. Customers didn't respect me as a manager for some reason because I looked young. And there was one day where basically one of my employees was on break in the lobby, and he was just kind of like fooling around. He was young, and he was very, very, very tall. And he was decided to stand up on one of the booths, and it obviously made him a lot taller. And he was just joking around. He was on break and just like laughing about it, whatever. So of course there was this guy at the first window who was driving an ambulance or like one of those support trucks for the, you know, firehouse. And of course that guy did not think that was very funny. And he was like, "Are you the manager?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how can I help?" And he's like, "Yeah, good manager, or good managing your employees over there." And I'm like, I turn around and like the guy had jumped down at that point, and I'm just like, he's on break? And then the guy just drives off. Like, it was just such a weird interaction. I'm just like, why did you even care? Like, I swear the craziest things happened to me at McDonald's. Like, I have stories at Sephora, but I think I was so in a bad place mentally at Sephora at the end that there's a lot of things I don't remember, honestly. But I do remember a lot from McDonald's, and there was at least two instances, where I had to call an ambulance for a customer. At least two. And obviously, you know, if you worked the morning shift at McDonald's, it was kind of notorious, but there was a lot of old people that would come in, and they were regulars. So that's kind of, you know, kind of where we're at with that. But there was at least two instances where somebody had a seizure in lobby, which is trigger warning, sorry, but it's kind of traumatizing as like somebody who's so young. But there was like one where I had a friend that I'm not friends with anymore. Ugh. But anyway, he was asked to watch this old man, and because he was either his son or a friend had to call like an ambulance or something. It was very bizarre why he had to leave the store and have an employee watch, but he was just being, you know, a good guy, and this guy's not even a good guy now. But basically, he was just kind of hanging out with this old guy, and the guy started to have a seizure in the middle of lobby. And again, we were really young at that point. I think we were 16. I wasn't even a manager at that point, but that was kind of traumatizing, to be honest. Like, I just never witnessed anybody having, actually I had before that, but not at McDonald's, and didn't really know what to do, and the employee was like crying, and it was just a whole thing. But there was another time where I worked at another McDonald's for a little bit, and something very similar happened, and I was the only manager there at the time, and I was so scared. But basically, again, another older person, basically this guy comes up to the front, and I think they knew my name at this point because I only worked at McDonald's, this McDonald's, for a little bit, like 3 months. But they're like, Lauren, this customer just passed out in lobby, and she's literally just laying in the booth sleeping. Like, she literally, we were mid conversation and just completely passed out. And I'm just like scared to death of what's about to happen here. So of course I go out there, and I literally see the lady just like laying in the booth, and I'm like unsure if she was even alive at this point. And I was like so scared. So of course, you know, we called the ambulance, they came, and it was actually really nice because like the other customers that were regulars like came up to me and just kind of said thank you for handling that in a very graceful way. And I'm like, good, they didn't notice I was kind of freaking out about it, but that would happen to me. It was right before I was leaving for LA too. So I was like literally on my way out. So yeah, that was kind of traumatizing, to be honest. Busted. I'm covered in makeup. Oh. Okay, last story here. This is like kind of random. There was one day, it was very early in the morning. It was actually right around the time that our truck would show up. So it was really early. And there was this guy that came in who was dressed just like it was the truck driver. Like, it looked just like the truck driver. Literally the same exact uniform. And I think they always wore, from what I remember, it was probably like a blue uniform. It was like a button-up shirt and blue pants. This guy was wearing it. So it was right around that time, and he was coming up to the front, and he was like, hey, can I speak to the general manager? And I'm just like, yeah, sure, 1 second. So I went back, and my general manager was there that day, and I was just like, hey, the truck guy's up front. For some reason, he wants you to talk to him. Not really sure why. And so he's just like, just send him back here. Like, I don't know what he wants. Like, at this time, we kind of had like a feud going on with the truck people, I believe. I mean, that was kind of like ongoing for a while, actually. But basically, I went up front, and I was like, hey, he says you can come on back. And the guy's like, okay. And then he just like walks to the back and doesn't really know where he's going. So it's kind of clear that this guy has never been to the back before. And I kind of walked him back there. I'm like, this guy just doesn't really know like where he's going. So I walk him to the back. My general manager at the time talked to him, whatever, sends him on his way, and I just hear laughter. So I'm like, oh, everything's cool. And I was like, oh, that was kind of weird that, you know, he came in, and well, it turns out that guy was not the truck driver. He just happened to be dressed exactly like the truck driver would. Just a regular customer. And I had sent him to the back. And at the time, my manager was actually counting the safe. So the safe's wide open. Random customer goes to the back and had to complain about something else. I don't even really know what it was about. But I was like so mortified. I was like, I looked at my general manager and I'm just like, oh my God, I thought that was the truck driver. And he goes, I did too. Like, I looked at him on the camera and I thought he was literally dressed like he was a truck driver. And they just sent a random customer to the back with the safe open, like. But yeah, that was all my stories. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you all got a good laugh out of that. I don't regret working there. Obviously, it gave me a lot of experience. It really gave me a lot of experience. Like, the customers, crazy. And that was actually one of my reasons why I left, because I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take being disrespected on a daily basis. And comes to show, customer service is kind of the same no matter where you go. After multiple customer service jobs, you know, people will treat you like crap no matter what. But I'll go into that in another video. I would love to hear your stories, like if there's anything crazy that's ever happened to you at your McDonald's or any other fast food chains. Like, I kind of enjoy this kind of stories. I know it's like a trend on TikTok, which kind of gave me this idea for this video in the first place, because I'm like, ooh, here's my stories. I got plenty. I'm sure there's more that I don't remember, and it's driving me crazy, but it's all good. If you want to see more of me, just don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.